card right away with Zubaira Tukhugov and Elvis Brenner. So scroll down here, and I'll start on the side of Brenner. Brenner is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He's fighting at a Shooter Box, which is obviously the same gym as Charles Oliveira, Alan Nascimento, Mateus Mendoca just made his debut recently. Plenty of other guys too, but just to name a few. So he's training with good competition. Charles was in his corner for, I believe it was his last fight. But I don't really think Charles being in his corner will make too much of a difference in this fight. He's pretty predictable in his striking. His kicks can be caught pretty easily, as they were by I watched his fight. This one right here against Gabriel Santos didn't really look good. Lost two fights to Gabriel Santos and Sergey Andreev, who, I mean, if you look at their records and if you even just look at his fights in general, he hasn't really looked necessarily good. I watched his fights where he lost, see what mistakes he made. He likes to play off his back a lot. He doesn't mind being on his back. He doesn't mind using his jiu-jitsu. Not that I necessarily see that making a huge difference in this fight. I think his fight IQ, I mean, he rolls for like leg locks and heel hooks, which is pretty stupid in an MMA fight for the most part, unless you're like Gary Tonin or at that level. But if you're not, rolling for heel hooks and stuff is it's stupid. But I don't think his grappling will make too much of a difference in this fight, because Zubaira Tukhugov is actually a striker. I know a lot of people immediately see his name and they think, he's from Dagestan. He's definitely 100% just going to wrestle. But he doesn't. He's actually a striker, and he's a pretty good striker, pretty clean striker. He is part of the, obviously, Team Habib, the AKA, whatever you want to call it. In this camp, he did spend time at Tiger Muay Thai. He has spent some time down there, improving his striking. He does, as I mentioned, have clean boxing, a good 1-2. He has pretty good counters. He occasionally takes some heavy shots on the feet, but it's not, I don't think Brenner will be able to knock him out. I think Zubaira has fought a much better level of competition and not gotten knocked out by them, so I don't think Brenner will be the one to put him away. Overall, I think there's a few ways this fight can go. The most likely option is Zubaira wins a decision. He does have a little bit of power, Zubaira. In his last fight, actually, against Ricardo Ramos, he did drop him. He does have power. He can, he actually also has some finishes on his record, but for the most part, he does go the distance. And I think Brenner will be tough enough to make it all 3 rounds, despite being picked apart. So I'll say Zubaira Tukhugov wins the decision. And if you guys hear these pages crumbling in the back, it's just because I take notes on every single fight. I'm come prepared, I should say. I'm not just talking a bunch of BS. I'm actually trying to take notes and trying to, see what these fighters do, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and stuff like that. Which actually brings me to the next fight in Blake Bilder and Shane Young. And when I talk about stuff like strengths and weaknesses, a lot of it is unknown in this fight. A lot of it's unknown. Blake Bilder, he just got his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu last week. At least on his Instagram, he just posted it last week. So just got his Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He had an amazing, just a smooth back take in his last fight. Alex Morgan submitted him, just hurt him on the feet, just came around, took his back, and choked him out. That was a very impressive win. Alex Morgan's not a scrub, not a can by any means. The problem with him is he did get his ass beat in the striking in this fight right here. This fight right here against Regivaldo Carvalho. He got dropped multiple times. Now, he did come back to win. Did come back to actually knock him out later in the fight in the 3rd round. But I don't think Shane Young is going to be that guy that gets knocked out in the 3rd round by Blake Bilder. I just don't see that happening. I see one potential way for Blake Bilder to win this fight, and it's through his wrestling, just trying to wrestle, trying to grapple. Wrestle and grapple heavy game plan is what he needs to try if he wants to win this fight. Shane Young, on the other hand, obviously training out of City Kickboxing, as you can see. Very good fighter. Well, I shouldn't say very good. He's a solid fighter. He's I don't know if I want to say he's like excellent on the feet or anything, but I think he is better than Blake Builder is in the striking. Blake Builder seems like he might have a little bit more pop in his punches, but I think Shane Young is pretty solid himself. The one problem I have with Shane Young in this fight that I wrote down because I noticed it, and I knew, I was like, this might be a problem against a guy like Builder. Two things. One is when he gets controlled against the cage, or he likes to control opponents against the cage, right? And you don't really want to clinch a guy like Blake Builder. He'll look to take you down. He'll look to get a body lock. He'll look to, come around, take your back. You really don't want to clinch with this guy and try to hold him against the cage, or, you want to keep your distance from him. And the second thing is, I couldn't help but notice when Shane Young got taken down in his last fight against Omar Morales, right here. That was almost 2 years ago, by the way, but he got taken down. He nearly got submitted. Not nearly got submitted, but that was actually a complete, fabrication there. It wasn't. He didn't nearly get submitted, but he did give his back to get up, which did work against Morales, who's a striker, but it wouldn't work, or probably I don't think would work against Builder. Builder would jump on his back if he gave his back to get up. So that is the one concern with Shane Young. Again, he didn't almost get submitted by Morales. That's more of a just something that Blake Builder could do, more so. But overall, I'm going to say Shane Young probably wins the decision. If this fight goes to 3, it's going to be Shane Young getting it done. I think Shane Young wins the decision. The only other path to victory for I think Blake Builder could get a submission, like a Hail Mary submission, but that's the only way that I see him winning here. I think Shane Young is just a level head right now. I think Builder's too green, but still a solid fighter, still good jiu-jitsu and everything. But next fight, this is oh man, this kind of fight is not. It's pretty easy to call, I think, in my opinion. It's not too. There's plenty of fights where people always argue like he's gonna win or she's gonna win, whatever. In certain fights, in this fight, I don't think there's too much debate for the most part. I think a lot of people are picking Loma to beat Elise Reed, and there's a few reasons for that. One, Loma trains out of Bang Tao Muay Thai in Thailand, which, if you guys don't know, that is a great Muay Thai gym, great MMA gym in general. In Thailand, similar to Tiger Muay Thai in a way. So obviously, training in a Muay Thai, basically a Muay Thai gym, essentially, she does throw a lot of kicks. That's her main game plan. She'll throw, leg kicks, she'll throw high kicks, anything like that. She also likes to mix in wrestling and trips, which I think is the key for her in this fight. If she wants to win this fight, she mixes in the wrestling, she mixes in the trips, she mixes in. Because Elise Reed struggles on the mat. Let's just be real. She struggles when the fight gets taken down, when she's not controlling the pace, controlling everything. She doesn't like it. So I think Loma has to be the one in control of this fight. If Elise Reed starts to, try to pressure, try to take control, she needs to clinch, throw some knees, take her down with using a trip. As she's done to multiple of her opponents. And if you look at Loma's record, she's only really lost to pretty good competition, Lupi Godinez, where she did actually take her down, but she did get, out-grappled by Lupi. And then against Angela Hill, who's, definitely a much higher level than Elise Reed. So I'm going to say Loma wins a decision. I don't know if Elise Reed gets submitted this time around or gets. She's not going to get submitted, I don't think, because Loma's not really looking for submissions. She's more so looking for ground and pound. So I think there's either Loma wins the decision or maybe second or third round ground and pound finish. Those are in my opinion, the only two reasonable ways you can look at this fight. I'm going to say Loma Oh man, if I had to say, I'll take her by uh, decision, but I would not be surprised if she did find like a ground and pound finish or something as well. Um, she should even have the advantage on the feet, obviously, being a striker. But the grappling advantage, she should, that's the route where she should go because of the trouble Elise Reed has had in that aspect. Next up is Jack Jenkins taking on Don Shainis. Now, Don Shainis, his last fight was just it was not good. It was on very short notice against Sadiq Youssef, but regardless of it being on short notice or not, he went in there and he just stuck his head right into it. He kind of just blitzed forward, like he was trying to tackle Sadiq, and he it just not no technical aspects to it at all. Um, I even looked at his previous fights. It's him just charging at his opponents, trying to take him down and trying to submit him right away. He fought Jay Perrin. Where's that? Or I'm sorry, not Jay Perrin. Jesus, Jay Ellis, 16 and 104. The same guy that fought. I believe he fought Colby Covington back in the day. Actually, I'm not gonna look that up now, but he fought a bunch of basically lost almost every one of his fights. Fought quite a few UFC fighters, including Nick Fiore from a few weeks ago, if you guys remember that guy. But enough of that. In this fight, Don Shainis is going to be at a disadvantage, in my opinion, Jack Jenkins. The first thing with Jack Jenkins is he does have a sick mullet and mustache combination. I just have to say that right now. It does look pretty cool. But besides that, as far as his actual game, he has good knees in the clinch. He does have pretty well-timed takedowns. Very nasty ground and pound. Throws a lot of elbows when he does get on top. But I think in this fight, it's better for him to keep it on the feet and just outstrike Don. Move around a lot, mix things up, throw leg kicks. He's always pretty precise with the shots anyway. I think Don is not going to be comfortable on the feet, not going to be comfortable against a guy like Jenkins. And I've seen people comparing Jenkins to Della Maddalena. I think Jenkins isn't on the level of Della. I think Della is on that next level, but I think Jenkins is a pretty solid prospect. And I think the UFC has given him a fight here in Shainis, which on the feet, he has a massive advantage, I believe. And if he can just stuff the takedowns, I think he will pick apart Shainis en route to I could see him finishing in round one. I could see him just completely picking apart, finishing Shainis. Shainis just going crazy, trying to get a takedown, not being able to get it, and just losing right away. Or I could see it going a little bit later. I'm going to I'll say round two. I'll say round one, Shainis sticks in there. Maybe Jenkins lands a few shots. Shainis looks for the takedown, doesn't get it. Second round, Jenkins comes out, knocks him out. So I'll say second round, KO or TKO for Jack Jenkins. Moving on to the next fight, which is Jamie Mullarkey taking on Francisco Prado. Now this one I'm going to be on, I should be on the popular side here, but I feel like a lot of people are picking Prado, and I don't necessarily know why. I think Prado, he's very green, and let's be honest here, everyone seems to think, Prado is just going to come in here and knock out Jamie Mullarkey in the first round. I'm seeing a lot of people pick it. I know he's an underdog, and I know even on Tapology, 73% are picking Mullarkey. So the percentages are in his favor. But when I see people on YouTube and stuff picking Prado, I'm kind of thinking to myself, where does he beat Mullarkey? And is he gonna take him down and control him or submit him? I don't think he is. And is he gonna knock him out? I mean, he has. I think in the first round he could stun Mullarkey, but Mullarkey's been in there with. Look at some of these guys Mullarkey's been in there with. Fares Siam, Kama Worthy, he knocked out. Beat Devontae Smith, who also been hit pretty hard. Loses to Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner is a huge lightweight. right? An absolutely huge lightweight, and Jalen Turner's making waves in the division. Would have fought Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker broke his hand and beat Michael Johnson via split decision. I think Michael Johnson could have gotten the win in that potentially. A lot of people think it could have went Johnson's way, but ultimately, he's having close fights or beating actually a lot of the competition that I think is better than Prado. I don't think Prado is necessarily on that level yet. His last fight was pretty impressive against Jose Barrios Vargas, but I don't think Barrios Vargas is anywhere close to the striker that Malarkey is. He did hit him with a clean 2-3. Right hand, left hook combo. It was quick. It was precise. It was good, but it wasn't. I don't think it's going to be something that Malarkey has never seen before. I think Malarkey's seen a lot in there. He's been in the cage with a ton of good fighters, and I think this one is just he doesn't need, if he just stays composed. Sometimes he will get hit. He likes to trade. Jimmy Malarkey is kind of a brawler sometimes, but he does have pretty good boxing himself. I think he will stay safe enough in this fight to not get knocked out early. And then I think as the fight wears on, Malarkey will take over. I could see it ending, Malarkey take him out in the second round. I don't know how tough Prado is going to be. I think as the fight goes on, it's definitely going to be Malarkey. Prado has, I think the first round could be, a toss-up in terms of just Prado just throwing, everything he's got at Malarkey. But I think overall Malarkey's a much better fighter and should get the win. I'll say late second or third round finish for Malarkey is what I'll go with. Prado, like I said, he's got power, but Malarkey's fought a lot of guys that are powerful and beat a lot of them. And Jalen Turner, like I said, is on a different level right now, not Francisco, in my opinion. So next up is Clayton Rodriguez versus Shannon Ross. Clayton, I actually really like Clayton Rodriguez in this fight. I think this is a perfect fight for Clayton to bounce back from his split decision loss versus CJ Vergara in a very competitive fight, a very good fight. Clayton mixes things up well on the feet. He throws a lot of front kicks. I think that'll what's the term I'm looking for? Will, I guess, do him right in this fight. Throwing a lot of front kicks, looking to the body. He does really like throwing a lot of kicks to the body, whether they be front kicks or just regular kicks. He can also wrestle if he has to. He does get gas sometimes, which is kind of a concern. Well, he seems like he can still push through the pace if he does get a little bit tired. So I don't want to look into that too much because I'm not gonna say he gasses, but he did look a little bit tired in that Vergara fight. Reasonably enough, though, it was a tough fight to be in, and I think this is a much easier fight for him. On the other hand, Shannon Ross, he on his last fight against Salvador, I feel like he just looks a little stiff on the feet. He was getting beat up with hooks against his opponent on the Contender Series. He was just getting beat with big shots. And I think, I don't know if it was the first or second round of that Contender Series fight. I was watching it, and it seemed like he didn't take his head off the center line. He just kind of walked straight in to a huge, just a bomb left hook. Or I believe it was just a massive left hook by Salvador, and dropped him. Didn't finish him in that, but he did get finished later in the fight. He can get countered by Rodriguez. He can get pieced up by Rodriguez. I don't know if Rodriguez doesn't really look for finishes. I mean, he can obviously get some finishes. He has some on the regional scene, but he's not looking for finishes. He's looking just to outstrike you, outpoint you for the most part. I know it sounds crazy to say that, but like that's what he's looking to, just beat you over the 3 rounds. And I think he will do that to Shannon Ross. I don't think Shannon Ross is UFC caliber. Too many mistakes he makes too many mistakes in the striking against a guy like Clayton, who's only improving, younger guy improving, and it's at flyweight. So if you're really looking into that, 30, Ross, the older guy at flyweight, Rodriguez improving, already looking good on the feet. Ross just got knocked out. Yeah, I'm very confident picking Clates, and I'm gonna say decision. This next fight is very interesting. This is probably one of the toughest fights to pick on the card. Um, the Blake Builder fight versus Shane Young was also pretty tough. That was one of the ones where I was like, I don't know. I think Builder could submit him, but I think Young could win the decision. I think it's one of those two. This one is very, very tough to pick. Joshua Coulibaugh is, well, the first thing I noticed about him when I was watching, the very first thing that I kind of wrote down, because as I say, I do write down a ton of notes on what I see in these guys, but he switches stances a lot. He always switches stances. He's pretty good in both stances, but um, more so in the conventional, like the orthodox stance, than rather than going southpaw. Uh, he did drop Sung Woo Choi with a left hook in their fight. He does have good straight right as well. Everything he throws is, with intent. He doesn't just, throw a bunch of volume out. He's looking to land good shots, looking to um, hurt you, I guess, although he doesn't really hurt that many people, because if you see, he's gone to decision in his the last three fights. Then got finished by Jalen Turner. Like I said, Jalen Turner is very good. So the question is, he also does mix in calf kicks as well. Coulibaugh does. He was mixing them in against Shaolan, Nurdenbeke, and those were paying off for him, especially later on. He's got good fundamentals. Coulibaugh, overall, good striker. That's going to be a problem in this fight, though. I really think so. I think against Melsik Bagdasaryan, for those that don't know, he kind of, I don't know if you guys would agree with me, but he kind of reminds me of Roman Kopylov. He reminds me of Roman Kopylov. I don't know if I'm the only person that thinks that, but he throws, just in the way he throws heavy kicks, as does Kopylov. He looks to the body a lot, as does Kopylov. He can throw, body and head kicks at a very fast, very accurate. He has a big left hand. And he's accurate with the left hand too. He's a former K1 kickboxer. A lot of people probably don't know that. They don't see he's only 7-1. They don't, they're thinking, oh, Coulibagh's fought better competition and everything, which he has. But I think Bagdasaryan is improving. It's going to be a tough fight. Like I said, it's one of the toughest ones to pick on the entire card. Against Bruno Souza, Bagdasaryan, that was his last fight a year ago. Souza is a kind of karate style fighter. That's what he does. He's a little bit kind of a different style than Coulibaugh. Coulibagh's tricky himself, but I don't think, I think this kind of style Melsik will be well prepared for. I think he's going to throw out a lot of kicks, looking for the head kick. He does have a head kick KO on his record against Colin Anglin. His takedown defense is pretty solid too. I don't think Coulibagh's going to be able to just out wrestle him for 3 rounds. And I think if it's going to be a stand up fight for 3 rounds, Melsik should get it done. I could see him getting a head kick, but I think this fight will go the distance, and I think Melsik will get it done. Could there be a kind of a hometown or home country sort of robbery? Absolutely, as could the Tyson Pedro fight versus Modestas later on the card, but we'll get into that when the time comes. But yeah, I do think Melsik is going to be the pick here. I think Coulibagh's a good fighter. Like I said, I think he absolutely could get it done, but if they're going to stay on the feet for 3 rounds, I'm taking Melsik to win with the kickboxing advantage. Next, the last prelim is going to be Tyson Pedro versus Modestas Bukauskas. And one thing I want to mention first, before I really get heavily into this, is Modestas Bukauskas is not a scrub. All right, he's not just people look at his last few fights, right? Chuck Campbell, Lee Chadwick, it's like, all right, whatever. But then you look at Tyson Pedro's last 2 fights, Harry Hunsucker and Ike Villanueva. Great job. You beat Ike Villanueva. I mean, credit to him. He still beat him in the first round. He beat Ike Villanueva, basically beat him with leg kicks. Ike was on the ground and from getting his leg chopped down, and then Pedro just came in and just ground and pounded him and just put him out cold. Um, and then against Harry Hunsucker, he threw kind of like a front kick to the body, and Hunsucker just went straight down. I guess caught him in the liver or something. But if you keep looking at Tyson Pedro's record, like he's not this world beater at all. He's absolutely not a world beater. He's nothing. I think he's been a little bit overrated in this fight. Minus 250 against a guy like Modestas Bukauskas. I don't know if the three losses in Modestas's UFC run, his first UFC run, was all right. Jimmy Crute. Okay, he loses to Jimmy Crute. Jimmy Crute's a good fighter. I think Jimmy Crute is being. I'll get into that fight in a little bit, but Jimmy Crute loses, gets countered off of throws a leg kick, gets countered, gets knocked out. All right, it's Jimmy Crute. Still not great to get knocked out, but then he wins this fight. Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, he loses a split decision. He won the fight. I watched that fight. He won. So he shouldn't be out of the UFC. And then he gets sidekicked to the knee by Khalil Roundtree. He was looking good in the first round. Like, Roundtree was throwing bombs, and he was, he didn't get knocked out. He was moving. He was, trying to stay out of range of the power of Roundtree. So he's a smart fighter. You know what I mean? He's a smart fighter. I think he's continually improving, as is obviously Pedro. But man, something's telling me it's not going to be as easy for Pedro as everyone thinks. Everyone thinks Pedro's going to run through this guy. I don't think so. You know what? I think this fight goes the distance, and I could see Modestas winning. As I said in the Kloibau and Melsick fight, could there be a hometown robbery sort of thing? Absolutely. But I think Modestas is not a bad underdog pick here. I think he's, everyone's kind of overlooking him. I feel like this kind of spot is where Modestas can actually win. The one problem I have with him is there's two problems I have with Modestas Bukauskas. The first one is he's not very heavy on volume. He does, pick his shots pretty well, but he doesn't throw a ton of volume, and I think that might be a problem in this fight. If you don't throw volume if you don't throw out a lot of shots against Tyson Pedro, like, you got to be, you can't let him throw just power, and then you're just throwing, you're hitting him with some shots, but going power for power not power for power, but you guys know what I mean, going like shot for shot with Pedro. I don't think it's going to look good to the judges. So I think that could be a problem. And also, Pedro almost definitely will be the one leading the dance here as far as being the one controlling the octagon, controlling the pace of the fight. I think Bukauskas, though, I think if the fight goes to distance, I think Modestas could have a shot of winning. Could this be another split decision that goes to Pedro? It could, but I'm going to go Modestas by decision. Underdog pick here. Now we get to the main card. We get to the real good fights here. Starting off with Jimmy Crute versus Alonzo Menifield. And this is another one. I mentioned it was back in the Malarkey and Prado fight where a lot of people are picking the dog. A lot of people are picking Alonzo Menifield in the spot. A lot of people are saying, Crute coming off of 2 losses, hasn't fought in over a year. He shouldn't be a big favorite in this fight. Menifield, he's coming off of 2 wins. Now, there's a few things that need to be said about Jimmy Crute. Jimmy Crute is not at all, he lost his last 2 fights. If you look at who he lost to, Anthony Smith, he hurt his leg in that fight. That fight was basically the O'Malley Cheeto Vera fight, right? It was almost the exact same thing with the kick right to the nerve, and he got hurt by it. It was a good win from Anthony Smith, but it was kind of like a freak injury sort of thing. And then he loses to Jamal Hill. He gets knocked out by the current champion, Jamal Hill, who we all know has insane power in his hands. So those two losses are like, okay, he loses to those two. Anthony Smith is a top guy. Jamal Hill is the current top guy in the division, next to Yuri. I do want to see that fight a lot, but besides that, Jimmy Crute's, he's fought and beaten some good opponents, and I don't think Menafield is on that level. I really don't. Um, no, the one Jimmy Crute does have a problem with his defensive wrestling. Jimmy Crute's defensive wrestling is kind of shit, if I'm being honest. He got taken down. I watched his fight against Paul Craig. Now, granted, this was back in 2018, I believe. I can actually check right here. I believe it was 2018, so it was a long time ago. Yeah, December of 2018. So it was years ago, but he got taken down multiple times by Paul Craig. That's not a good look. You don't want to be taken down. If you get taken down multiple times by Paul Craig, it doesn't matter how young you are in your career, how green you are. Getting taken down by Paul Craig multiple times is like, that's a question. He did submit Paul Craig though, which shows he does have very good jiu-jitsu. I don't think Menafield will be able to mix in those takedowns. Even if he does try and mix in takedowns, I think Crute will be able to use his jiu-jitsu to sweep or get up. Some things to mention for Menafield is he is training out of Fortis. He did he knocked out Misha Serkinov with a brutal left hook. Just caught him, followed up with some nice ground and pound. But one problem I see with him is he does get hurt by a left hook. It was kind of funny. He knocked out Misha in his last fight with the left hook, but he gets hurt by the left hooks a lot in his fights. Against William Knight, his last loss, he got rocked bad with a left hook. Did survive that, did go the distance, but that wasn't the best look there. And against this guy right here, Askar Mazarov, just a regional can that was brought in to be crushed. He actually was landing shots and throwing on Menafield, basically taunting him, telling him to, with his hands down, taunting him. Not in a position to defend the takedown. Menafield takes him down and submits him. Again, that's a can. There's nothing really to say about that win. I even looking at through his record, Ed Herman, Fabio Charant, I think Alonzo Menafield's a little bit. I think Crute should be a bigger favorite in this fight. I think Crute should be a minus 300. I wouldn't even be upset if Crute was a minus 300 because he's way better. I think he's fought better competition. Menafield, people are looking at Menafield. Oh, he's winning his fights. He only lost one. It was a close decision. William Knight. Well, look at who he's fighting. It's not even close. The level of competition is completely flipped. Anthony Smith and Jamal Hill in his last two versus Misha Serkinov and Askar, a regional can. I know Jimmy Crute lost to Misha Serkinov, but he was also beating Serkinov's ass a little bit earlier in the fight. Got tired, kind of shot like a very lazy sort of takedown and got submitted. I think Jimmy Crute is the side here. I don't know why people are so high on Menafield. It's kind of like Prado. I don't know why people are so high on him either. I think Menafield and Prado have they both have one way to win. Menafield and Prado, first round KO. If they don't get it, they're not going to win. Jimmy Crute, he's a better fighter. He should get this done. This is a fight where he should win against the older guy in Menafield. Crute's improving. I know he's got knocked out in his last fight, but I think his chin can hold up against Menafield. I'm picking Jimmy Crute. Hopefully he doesn't get hit too much, though. It would worry me if he does get hit a lot. But I don't think Menafield's that great. Next fight up, Justin Tafa and Parker Porter. Oh, yeah, Jesus. A lot of people make fun of this guy, Parker Porter, all the time. Everyone always talks about Parker Porter and all that crap. It's like, all right, hilarious. You make fun of Parker Porter, but he's actually not as bad as you think. If you bet against him in this fight, I would advise you against it because I think Parker Porter wins. I'll say that right away. I think he wins the decision. I don't think there's too much to say about this fight. I'll go into it still. Um, Justin Toffel, I guess we'll start with him. And how bad, he's the bad man. He's bad at fighting, but beat up Harry Hunsucker, knocked him out with the head kick. It's Harry Hunsucker. He's not good. Taffa loads up in all of his punches. He's not technical at all. He's easy to counter. Porter actually has good boxing. I know people are gonna not. I'm not gonna say like amazing boxing or anything, but he has solid boxing, and like just because of the way he looks, people think like he's just terrible. He's just fat and gonna get beat up by anyone he fights. But the fact is, this guy can actually like he can box. He boxed up Chase Sherman. And I know people also might say Chase Sherman's kind of a scrub, but not really. Chase Sherman's pretty good at boxing, and Porter was outstriking him and beat him by decision. So I think Porter has to definitely watch out for the power, the untechnical swinging hooks. Tafa is not Tuivasa. He's not Mark Hunt. He's not like these type of fighters. Don't get this twisted. He does have some power, but I think people are just. I'm seriously. I don't know why Parker Porter's not the favorite in this fight. He loses his last 5. He's 2-3, and those losses were to Jailton Almeida. Jailton Almeida would do the same thing to Justin Taffa, just take him down, beat him up, and submit him. And then against Chris Daukaus, who is pretty quick on the feet, and is pretty technical on the feet as well. Like Justin Taffa's. I don't see why he's a favorite. I guess people think he's going to win by knockout. 66% are picking Taffa. Oh my god, by knockout. It's insane to me. I don't know why everyone's sleeping. If Porter gets knocked out, sure, I'll admit it, but I think he's actually better in this fight. I think he wins by a decision. Few fights left, and we're getting into the really good fights now. We have Randy Rude Boy Brown taking on Jack Della Maddalena. And let me just say a few things. I'll start with Brown, but I really want to get to Jack Della because this dude's legit. He really is legit. But to start with Randy Brown, Brown is huge for the division. I'll scroll down so you guys can see. 6'3", 78-inch reach. So he's going to be have the reach and the size advantage over Della. But the thing is, Randy Brown kind of has that size advantage in every fight he's in because he's a huge welterweight. I know I keep mentioning Jalen Turner in this video. It's kind of weird, but I think I can't believe how a guy like Turner makes lightweight. I don't know how Brown makes welterweight, let alone Turner making lightweight. But regardless of that, Brown is pretty solid. He's, he uses the jab more so to find range. He's decent on the feet. He throws a lot of front kicks. He likes throwing front kicks to the face. He actually caught a few of his opponents with that, actually. And he caught Francisco Trinaldo with a front kick to the face in their fight. Trinaldo was also 44 when they fought. So when you think about it, it's like, does that really look great now? 44-year-old, or 43 or 44, it doesn't even matter. Way out of his prime, old Francisco Trinaldo was his last fight, and he won 29-28. Won the first 2. Third round he lost. I believe he slipped, and Trinaldo just controlled him the rest of the round. But the one problem I see with him is, and he actually does have pretty good defense. Randy Brown does. He has actually, like, you see his head movement. He does move his head. He does, move around the cage pretty well. So he is pretty good as far as defense. Like, he's not, getting hit a ton. But when he does get hit, he gets rocked. He got rocked badly by Chaos Williams in their fight. Got rocked by him, got dropped, had to shoot a panic takedown on Chaos Williams. That was a very short right hook that caught him. By Chaos, and I think in a fight against Jack Della Maddalena, Jack Della has crispy boxing. Jack Della this dude is like I said, I think he's legit. He picks people apart in his boxing. In his last fight against Danny Roberts, he made it look easy. Every fight he's been in, pretty much he's made it look easy. His last 3 fights have all been first round finishes. He goes to the body, he goes to the head, mixes things up very well. Um, Throws a jab out well, and it's not just like a lazy jab; it's a very sharp jab. He's really trying to like hurt his opponents with the jab. Like it's not just oh, I'm just gonna throw a jab out, throw a jab out. Like he really does look to you know batter opponents' noses in with that jab. Um, he can fight a little bit out of both stances as well. And the one thing that I noticed from Jack Della was his pull counter. It was against Pete Rodriguez. And I know Pete Rodriguez was 4-0 in the UFC in that fight, but still, Rodriguez was tried to hit him, and Della just leaned back, pulled back, countered, beautiful knockout. I think his boxing is just like I said. It's his counters, his ability to just piece guys up, quick hands, goes to the body, end of the head. You could tell this guy there's something about this guy. He's only 26. I think this guy's going to be a future, definitely. I think top 10 guy for sure. Give me Jack Della Maddalena here. I think he also can get it done. He can get it done in round 1. Could be round 2 as well, but I do see Jack Della Maddalena finishing this fight. Vicente Luque in Randy Brown's last loss, he chewed up Randy Brown's legs. He chewed up the legs. He hit him with a ton of leg kicks. Jack could mix in the leg kicks as well. He could mix in the leg kicks and to help him set up the boxing. That could be a viable strategy, but I think he'll just overwhelm Randy, and he doesn't want to get hit clean by Jack Della Maddalena, because if he gets hit clean once and gets rocked, I think Della finishes him and just unloads just a nasty combo on him. So give me Jack Della Maddalena to win in the first round, and to just electrify the crowd for the last 2 fights of the night. The first one being Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett. You know what? I'll say this. I'll go to the grave saying this. Josh Emmett did not win against Calvin Kattar. He didn't. He didn't win. He did not win against Calvin Kattar. And the reason he won against Calvin Kattar, according to the judges, one of the judges, was because of round 4. One judge gave round 4 of the Calvin Kattar and Josh Emmett fight to Emmett. Round 4, where he got outstruck like 42 to like 21 or something like that, almost double. Or, well, I don't know if it might have been 40, 41 to like 23 or something. So nearly double, I should say. But you almost get that fight wrong, right? They get that fight wrong. A lot of people thought he lost to Ige as well, but it's like that Kattar fight really pissed me off. I was like, no way, they just robbed Kattar bad. Giving round 4 to Emmett has to be corruption in some way. I'm not sure what Uriah Faber's paying the UFC or what's going on there, but I don't think they're going to be able to do anything like that against Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez, he's obviously much younger, especially for a lighter weight class. It's featherweight, 145. You can get away with being old. Heavyweight, light heavyweight, even middleweight to an extent, you can get away with being old. You can't really get away with being old in a weight class like featherweight. The lower you go in weight, the harder it is to fight as you get older. And I think Josh Emmett is about to be 38. He's 37, literally like 1 month away from being 38 years old. Fighting against Yair Rodriguez, 30 years old, in his prime, has fought Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega did get hurt in the fight. It was a weird sort of, I don't know how he got hurt still, or what the deal was with that. But Yair was looking pretty good on the feet before that. I mean, I know there wasn't really much to the fight. It was only a few minutes, but Yair didn't look bad. Against Max Holloway, he won 2 rounds. A lot of people had him winning 2 rounds. I had him winning 2 rounds. And, loses to one of the best strikers in the UFC in general, in Max Holloway. So ultimately, I'm not taking that away from him, that loss to Holloway. For Emmett, Uh, for the most part, it's just heavy shots. He likes to just throw power with everything. He's looking to land the overhand right. Obviously, the overhand right is his bread and butter. Um, he is open to. I feel like his stance is a little bit open though. Because he does kind of transfer that power. He does look for the big heavy shots. He does leave his front leg open. And I think if Yair's smart, I'm predicting he will use a lot of leg kicks. He will kick the shit out of Emmett's leg in this fight. That's my first prediction of what will happen. I think Yair will be smart in doing that. One, it'll make it harder for Emmett to explode off the leg, and it'll also tire Emmett out. Having to move on that. Yair mixes things up very well too. He can go to the head, he can go to the body. I think Emmett will get tired from that a little bit. He's a very explosive guy. He's not gonna beat you in terms of like pace or like volume. I should say is correct there, but he does have power. He has a power advantage in almost all of his fights just because he throws like heavy shots and he can knock people out. Like he really can. But he has a good chin. His chin's been tested before. It's battle tested. He's been in wars. Like I think Yair is the spot here. I think he could even find a late finish against Emmett, maybe chewing up the leg a little bit, maybe trying to go for like a high, maybe like a head kick, maybe going low and then going high. I'm not sure if he will get that finish in the later rounds. I think overall, though, he should win this fight. Even if it goes to the judges, he should win, or he should win inside the distance. Regardless of whatever the way is, I think Yair is the spot. And lastly, the main event, Islam Makhachev versus Alex Volkanovski. This honestly shouldn't shock anyone. I'm going Makhachev. I'll say it again. Again, like this one, I'll say it right away. Islam has the wrestling. He has the grappling. His top pressure. You don't even have to ask me. Like other fighters, like Drew Dober has said it. His top pressure is it's smothering, right? It's unlike anything a lot of these guys have ever dealt with. Him and Habib, which are basically their cousins and basically best friends. Been training since they were kids, and it is like I said, he's a lot like Habib. He's not as athletic as Habib. He's not as he doesn't have that. I don't think he has as much of a killer mindset as Habib, if that makes sense. But he still is like he's just an amazing fighter. His grappling, his submission ability is excellent. His control is excellent. His striking is improving. His boxing is improving a lot. He has pretty underrated kicks. He's been working on his kicks. Some people are predicting him to knock out Volkanovski. I don't think he knocks him out. I think Volkanovski's pretty quick. I think he has a very high fight IQ. I think that's probably one of the best parts about Volkanovski is he's well-rounded. He's got a good fight IQ. He doesn't make too many mistakes. He just outstruck Max Holloway over 5 rounds. Like he's a very impressive fighter. The thing with him though is he's looked. Islam in his last few fights hasn't even looked human. He's just looked like it's like he's just destroying these guys. Like it's insane. Volkanovski has struggled in certain fights. I know he has looked pretty flawless in his last fight against Holloway, but I know you have to go a little bit back, a little bit further back. But against Mendes, he got taken down, and I know what you're going to say. It's like, oh, it's years ago against Chad Mendes. He's a good wrestler. But if you get taken down by Mendes, you're going to get taken down by Islam. He's working with Craig Jones and a bunch of very high-level grapplers, Volkanovski is, but ultimately I don't see it making too much of a difference. You can't teach that kind of wrestling in defensive wrestling, being able to defend Islam in one camp. It's especially moving up a weight class. Islam's going to be the bigger guy, the stronger guy. If he gets on top, Volk's going to be just it's going to be hell for Volk. Um, I think Islam does win this fight by submission. I think he finishes Volk. I don't think it's going to be necessarily really early. I think Volk will try to make it a competitive fight. He'll try to push through. But I think in the end, Makhachev will submit him maybe round 3. Makhachev will find the submission. Take his time, not rush anything, just stay composed, and eventually find something, find an opening, and capitalize on it. So